And we're live again for the fourth episode, the Fifth Down Podcast. I'd like to welcome everybody in today. It's playoff time, exciting part of the year for the NFL season. We're winding down. We're about to get a little bit closer to who's going to be the champion. But right now, today's episode, we're going to be going over every game individually. We're going to give you gambling advice on each individual game. Stay tuned until the end, and I'm going to give you two parlays. One will be who I think wins every single game. I'm going to give you a separate parlay. It's a little more of a long shot, obviously. But the second parlay is something I could also see happening, but it'll win you a lot more money if it does. So, starting off today, we're going to get right into a few things. Before we head into the previews, I want to get a few coaching things out of the way. Pete Carroll is out as the Seattle Seahawks head coach. He is moving into an advisory role as of right now. Both him and the Seahawks have agreed they're going to be looking for a new head coach, as Pete Carroll will attempt to be an advisor. Bill Belichick and the Patriots announced today that they're going to be parting ways, as well as Nick Saban has retired. Those are the three big coaching changes as of right now. We just had Black Monday. For those who may not know the term, Black Monday is the first Monday after the NFL regular season concludes. A lot of coaches get fired that time. That's why it's kind of called Black Monday. We've had a lot more coaches get fired. We're going to cover that probably towards the end of the playoffs. Probably that week between the AFC, NFC title games and the Super Bowl. Kind of look at those vacancies and who might be in and out. As a quick hitter, real quick, watch out, I would say, for Pete Carroll maybe going to Alabama. He's still got that spark. He's like 72, but he's a very young 72-year-old somehow. And Bill Belichick, he might kind of wait to hold his cards. And Saban retiring, I think he's going to go into television. Probably Fox to fill that Sean Payton role after he got hired by the Broncos, I would imagine. So I'd say Saban's going to TV. Carroll might interview for the Alabama job. And Bill Belichick will probably kind of just sit back and kind of survey the field for a minute. But that is the quick hitter on the coaches. Without wasting anybody's more time, we're going to go into these games. These should be ranked, if my notes were correct. I looked it up. These are going to be ranked in order, which they will be played starting on Saturday. And into the first game we've got the Cleveland Browns traveling to the Texans. Congratulations to the Texans for winning that division. Jacksonville obviously chokes it away against Tennessee. Texans win a very close competitive game against the Colts to win the division. Nobody saw that coming with a rookie quarterback, rookie head coach. So the Texans win that division. That was right down there to the end. The Browns, on the other hand, were resting people last week. I've checked the injury reports. As of right now, there are people who are on kind of rest and a little bit of injury, but right now it looks like everybody who can will play. I didn't see any huge designations, anybody scary popping up. That's also why we've delayed this podcast now, probably for the rest of the playoffs to at least Thursday, sometime around the noonish time frame. That way we can try and keep you guys as up to date and as accurate on the injury reports as possible. This game is being played Saturday. So like I said, the Browns are traveling to the Texans. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites. I've been saying it for pretty much since this podcast started. I like the Browns with Flacco to make the AFC title game. So obviously I'm going to be having the Browns here. I think defensively, this will be the first time the Texans have really seen a hard-hitting defense, a really great defense like this since the Jets game, which they made C.J. Stroud just look all out of sorts. I think we're going to see a repeat of that. But it's very positive looking forward for the Texans. I think the Browns win. I think they're going to win more than likely handedly. Which one on the gambling side of things, that 2.5, I would swallow that. I'm taking the Browns to win. Cover the 2.5. I think the Browns win 28-20, 30-21, somewhere in that frame. But the Texans moving forward, this is a great. They'll get their hopefully the receiver back next year. They'll have another excellent draft, hopefully. And they'll maybe get a free agent or two to help bolster that wide receiver room. That way, when one of their receivers goes down, like he did this year for the season, they're not kind of down to just one extra guy. But as like I said, that one will probably be the most cut and dry so far. Is the Browns over the Texans? That's the lock of the week out of everything for me. That is the I would be most surprised even out of the other ones, and I'll get to that even though the spread doesn't reflect it. I would be very surprised if the Browns lose to the Texans. But yeah, if you want your surefire, take a couple of bucks, take the Browns minus 2.5 at the Texans. Seems wild. I think the Browns head to toe are just a more complete, more better football team. So moving on to the next one, Saturday night, somewhat controversial because it's streaming exclusively on Peacock. I will say this for anybody who does want to know, except for your local market. If you're a local Kansas City market, you get the blackout Kansas City games. Local Miami Dolphins market, local Miami games with the blackout. You should still be able to watch that game on your local NBC affiliate. Peacock is an NBC deal for those who may not know. But the Chiefs are 4.5 point favorites at home. This line opened up at about 1.5. Well, we couldn't do podcast then, otherwise I would have hammered the Chiefs. That's basically a pick 'em, but it's been bet all the way up to now 4.5. I am picking the Chiefs to win this game. It's gonna be very cold. Yeah, it's gonna be basically -15. I know with the wind chill, the real feel, which should just be the temperature, but that's a separate discussion about the weather we won't have today. But the real feel with the wind chill will be about -15. It looks like there's a potential chance of snow also. A lot of cold front moving in here in the Kansas City area. The Chiefs are used to cold weather. They won't be bothered by it. The Dolphins, I believe, since 2015 or 16, somewhere in there, they have yet to win a game below zero or below a certain temperature. Apologies for not having that exact statistic on me. Um, but the Chiefs at -4.5. That's hard on the gambling side. That's going to be hard to bet on, and we'll get that here in a second. Injury-wise for this game, from what I've read, most of the Chiefs, Kadarius Toney, all those guys, they should be good to go. They were obviously resting last week, and they should be at close to full power outside of Jerick McKinnon, who's still on IR, to go. As for the Dolphins side, obviously no Chubb on the defensive side. The two offensive pieces people probably had a lot of questions about, Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert. They are still on the report. They missed last week against that win against the loss. My apologies, with that loss against the Bills that dropped them down to the 6th seed. Also, when we get to it, congratulations on the Bills for winning the AFC East for the 4th time in a row. Reading some reports that came out not too long ago, and McDaniels was addressing the team. He says they're hopeful. They haven't had any setbacks, but with a short week, you never know. So it does look like Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are hopeful to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. Who I have in this game, I am going to take the Chiefs. I don't think the Dolphins. I think they're limping. I think they've ran out of gas. I think it's just not a whole lot there for them at this point. I think they tried everything they could to beat the Bills. They couldn't. Tua Tagovailoa, his decision making is not really there. The Chiefs have beat them already, so there's not, I would say, on the Chiefs side of things, any sort of worry or anything like that about having to host Tyreek Hill again. He tried the revenge angle, it didn't work. L'Jarius Sneed, who will be named probably to the All-Pro. Trent McDuffie on the other side. Two very good corners. They should be able to keep the wide receivers in check again. And the Dolphins' offensive line is struggling a lot, so they just need to find that right matchup, in my opinion, with Chris Jones probably. And I think they'll be able to wreck shop, disrupt the timing. When you get to that 4.5, the 0.5 is called a hook in gambling terms, for those who don't know. But that hook on the 4.5, potentially by kickoff, this thing could be all the way up to 5 and 5.5 if people keep hammering the Chiefs. Obviously, that's what happens to those who also don't know. When a team gets bet on more, their number increases until it stops and it kind of goes down, which is why the Chiefs opened up at 1.5, and now we're talking about them at 4.5. Gambling side, not picking an outright winner. Outright winner, if you just bet the outright winner, take the Chiefs. But if you want to bet on the spread, the Dolphins to cover at 4.5 or better, because this has potentially sneaky backdoor cover. They're down 10 with maybe a minute to go. Maybe get a touchdown. They get it like a touchdown or something. Now they're only down 3 and you lose it, or something like that. That 4.5. It just gets hard to take the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not a very good covering team either. And this thing could go fast and quick with maybe both teams preferring maybe to run the ball here. So that is my pick. Chiefs outright, but Dolphins. If that, like I said, if that number dips from 4.5 down to 4, that gets a little harder. If it dips back down to 3.5, I would take the Chiefs at 3.5 to cover at 3.5, but not 4.5. So we're going on to the next game here. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Like I said, congratulations to the Bills for winning the division a 4th straight time, when a lot of people, including myself, had them dead. You have to give them credit for that. It has not been inspiring, though. They've had clunkers. It's been weird. If ever the phrase by hook or by crook kind of applied to a couple of game stretch here, that's kind of how the Bills feel like they're winning. They get a punt return for a touchdown in the Miami game that really flipped that game for them and let them kind of keep that momentum and get that momentum and kind of ride it all the way. They're going to host the Pittsburgh Steelers, which congratulations for the Steelers to getting in with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Who would have thought going to a guy named Rudolph on Christmas time would yield such fantastic results? But obviously the Steelers take care of business against the Baltimore Ravens backups. And they get in, and then Jacksonville losing also helped them do that, helped them get in also. So the 7-seed Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. This is a -10 on the Buffalo Bills side. The Buffalo Bills are favored by 10. I'm going to write a note down here real quick. As far as injury-wise for this game and why this is probably a -10 spot, TJ Watt is out. He was ruled out earlier this week. Minkah Fitzpatrick, however, he will be playing in this game. So, what we're looking at right now is Buffalo, who's been basically playing playoffs for 4 weeks. They've been flirting with disaster, and all of these pretty much losing your out games, it felt like. A Steeler team that kind of feels a little bit house money, in my opinion. They had the injury to Pickett, and then Mitch Trubisky comes in, and they eventually replace him for Rudolph, then they roll off a couple of wins, and now they're in the playoffs. Mike Tomlin, another winning season. So the way this is going to look to me right now, take the Steelers to cover. Take them to cover the 10. I'm going to take Buffalo to win. The reason this is not as big of a lock as I would say is who watching would be surprised if Buffalo comes out flat. The Steelers with an opportunistic defense, a lot of young wide receivers, they kind of come out firing and they make this a really close game. Bills get tight, McDermott gets tight, Allen gets tight, and then you've got the Steelers probably feeling like they have a puncher's chance going into the 4th, and then a big play happens, potentially another turnover, and all of a sudden the Steelers might win this game. Like I said, Steelers definitely are the side on the money side. If I'm picking an outright winner, though, I will go with the Bills. They should be able to. They have the firepower. Their defense is playing a little bit better. You would think the clock has to eventually strike midnight for the Steelers, and there's kind of almost Cinderella turnaround. But yeah, um, that's why the Browns Texans was the lock and not one of these other big favorites like I'll get to in the next little part of the discussion. The Bills, I feel like, are very prone to falling flat. They came out flat against Miami. They fall flat against the Patriots the week before. They were kind of flat on at least on offense against the Chargers. You know, I don't think they've played inspiring football, and I think the Steelers will take advantage of that. And like I said, if T.J. Watt was playing, this is probably a 5 or a 4 point spread with a lot of more people picking a Steelers upset. Right now, in my main setup I have right now with my main picks, I am gonna take the Bills. So right now, for the AFC side, I have the Browns advancing, the Chiefs advancing, and the Bills advancing. Now we're gonna cover those matchups here in a little bit, but now we're gonna hit the NFC side. The first game scheduled for the NFC side, Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are 7.5 point favorites, and that feels right. They blow people out at home that maybe aren't the best. The Packers defense, it is not pretty. They're probably going to fire their defensive coordinator after the season, but I'm obviously going to take Dallas. I am hesitant at 7.5 to pick Dallas. I will probably, if this number goes below 7, I would pick Dallas to cover below 7. Above 7, right where it is 7.5 the hook, take the Packers to cover, because this could very well just wind up being the Packers just throw the ball all over the yard. They got nothing to lose. They might be down 2 touchdowns. They get a touchdown. They're only down by 7. Go for the onside kick. Don't recover it. Dallas nails the clock. That half-point hook cooks you in that scenario. I could see something like that happening. Good old prevent defense. But Dallas in the first round, they fought their way to the 2 seed, and congratulations on the Dallas Cowboys for winning the NFC East. But injury-wise, I'm not seeing a whole lot of stuff on the injury report for those guys. Not really anything that would change my pick. But like I said, I will have Dallas winning this and advancing. Green Bay is a good story. A lot of people are saying they found their guy in Jordan Love potentially. I'm not so sure. I want to see another year before I think about it. But obviously, congratulations for making the wild card, making that 7 seed spot. Dallas, this is another game. Like the Steelers, you think this would be a lock. If I don't like the Bills, well, I would have to like. I don't, because Mike McCarthy playing against his old team again. The Packers always beat the Cowboys. Yes, that was with Aaron Rodgers for the most part, but they haven't played without him yet to really prove that, so there might be kind of that running around in the back of a few Dallas players' heads maybe. And like I said, it's kind of the Steeler thing. Green Bay, house money. Maybe they probably think they're still a year away probably from where this should have been. But they're in the playoffs right now. They like to throw the ball, run the ball a little bit. I think it can be competitive. And once again, if this is like the Steelers, if this game gets close, for whatever reason, I would definitely take Matt LaFleur over Mike McCarthy in a close game. Mike McCarthy, almost at this point, famous for having very poor clock management skills, very poor situational play calling. Even at home, could you feel maybe the stadium get tight and another Dallas disappointment? I can see that to a certain extent. I don't think that will happen because of how porous the defense is for Green Bay and how CeeDee Lamb has kind of emerged as a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL right now. So, just to reiterate, we're going to take Dallas to win, but at the 7.5 line, take Green Bay to cover. If that dips down to 6.5, Dallas is the play there. But if it stays 7.5 and even goes up more, Green Bay to cover that. Next up, The Rams at the Detroit Lions. Lions are 3-point favorites at home. Obviously, like we said, the Lions have won the NFC North. Rams are the 6th seed. So, what we're looking at right now, this is an interesting game. Matthew Stafford comes home. Um, Jared Goff obviously playing the Rams, the team that traded him to Detroit, and then the Rams go on to win that Super Bowl with Stafford. Um, it's obviously at the Lions in Ford Field. Here is the kicker that's going to influence a lot. Laporta is doubtful. Report from Dan Campbell is it wasn't the best of starts for him to try to play. And even if he does play, I think he'll be more of a decoy or extremely limited. And with Laporta out, I'm going to take the Rams. Head coach, better head coach. I like Dan Campbell, but I think Sean McVay is just better. Dan Campbell is good. McVay is just better. Quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Stafford at this point is better than Goff. Wide receivers, I think that's a wash. Obviously, tight end is with Laporta out, not healthy. The Rams are better, probably at tight end with Higbee. Also, the defense, the Lions' defense has not really been showing up too terribly well. While on the Rams, I can very well see Aaron Donald just finding a way to wreck this game. The Lions have a great offensive line, but the Rams on defense, I think they can show up in this big spot, show up and pull this upset. I'm calling the upset. The Rams go into Detroit and defeat the Lions. I just think the Rams are honestly on Detroit's level, maybe a little bit better now that Laporta's out. And yeah, I will just take the Rams. I'm surprised this is stuck at -3. I figured this would have been come down a little bit more. But as of right now, you can take the Rams as a 3-point underdog. I would take them as an outright win. It may be a little bit close for comfort, but like I said, I get a better quarterback, I get a better coach, I get a better defense. I just get a lot of stuff in the big key categories that I think are better on the Rams side. Now we're going to shift to the last game for the wild card weekend. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Eagles are 3-point road favorites. I'm going to call another one. I'm going to call the Buccaneers to beat Philly at home. Philadelphia, they are not limping. They're crawling on their hands and knees into the postseason, just begging for the season to be over. It feels like at this point, down like 24-0 against the Giants in a win and potentially in scenario if the Cowboys would have lost to the Commanders. They came out flattered in 4 o'clock. They are just paper flat in that game. They had people get injured. It was about as bad of an ending to a season as you could get, and I think Sirianni is starting to kind of feel the screws tighten. And I think this team. Now the Bucks didn't impress anybody either. They only beat the Panthers 9-0. You know, it feels like a Dodgers score in baseball, but I'm just going to take the Bucks. I've rode with the Bucks a lot. They did win the South. Congratulations to the Buck. Congratulations to Baker Mayfield, first ever division winner. Division title, I should say. The Eagles' defense is horrible. They're the worst unit in the playoffs off of anybody. They're bottom of the league in defense. I think the Buccaneers might be able to round into a little bit better shape. This might be an ugly game. And very well, the Eagles could beat them. But just, I can't get over how they played against the Giants in a potential division game. Division clinching game like that. Obviously, the Cowboys won and it was a moot point, but those games were on at the same time. I think Sirianni's on the hot seat. And he may have lit his own seat on fire a little bit to make it hot, but it is, I think, starting to cook up. And I know some people are saying, well, they were just in the Super Bowl. They're still making the playoffs. They fired Andy Reid for having one bad season, pretty much. They fired Chip Kelly after going like 10-6 and 10-6. They fired him in the third season. They got rid of Doug Peterson for winning a Super Bowl and then making the playoffs for the next, I believe, 2-ish years with subpar quarterback play, and then they basically run him out of town too when he was in the middle of a bad season. So if they don't fire, if they go in and lose to the Bucks round one and don't look good like they did not look good against the Giants, either they fire him right there or he's going to start the season super hot on that hot seat and he could potentially be out from the Eagles by the middle of next season. That's just how Philadelphia is. And in other teams, he'd be lock, stock, barreled. He'd be set right now. But the way he is right now in Philadelphia, the way that market is, don't be surprised if they come out flat and look horrible against the Bucks. Sirianni to be fired after that game. So, to recap, I have picked the Browns, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions, the Cowboys, and the Bucks. I'm sorry, I picked the Rams, not the Lions. I was reading down. Let's try that again. Browns, Chiefs, Bills, Dallas, Rams, Bucks. That's going to be my pick for each winner. And all of these odds I've been talking about, they have been supplied through the DraftKings app. That's my preferred method if you guys have a different one. But I'm going to go into DraftKings right now. That way I give you guys all the up-to-date information in case lines do change. So, I'll just have this thing load here. And I'd like to thank everybody for, checking out the podcast, coming checking us out, watching. I do appreciate it. We're still getting this thing going, so if you guys could subscribe, leave some comments, share the channel around. We're trying to grow, trying to do a whole lot right now. So here's an example. While we were talking on this podcast, the Cleveland line has shifted from 2.5 to 2. We're still going to go with an outright winner right now, so we're going to take Cleveland, the Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Dallas Cowboys, the LA Rams, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a 6-game parlay. And right now, those odds, $50 will win you $1,090.41. That's something I will put in tomorrow night once some of the more final things come out on injury report. But that's going to be something I'm going to put up. So if you guys want to join me on that, win some money with me, we all could laugh all the way to the bank. So, and I teased you with it earlier. The kind of longer shot one that I could see happening, I'm going to give it to you right now. We're going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers. Basically, we're going to bet on both teams I thought could fall flat. They both potentially do fall flat. So we're looking at Pittsburgh, Green Bay, and then we're going to add the Bucks to that too, kind of staying in that trend. And on that one right there, $50, that same bet as before, will win you $2,053.90. That's another one I'm probably going to look into, and once some more injury stuff comes out on Friday, I'll probably put that one in there too. That one's a lot higher risk, but that's a lot higher reward. So, that is going to be what I am more than likely going to do this weekend. I'm going to put in both of those. You guys can either choose to it. You can choose every single thing against me if you want to. That's your prerogative. But I've given you who I think wins, where to bet them at, and a couple of parlays. So as a preview real quick, if what I say holds true, we're going to have a very interesting next weekend. We're going to have the Browns visiting Baltimore, the Chiefs in Patrick Mahomes' first ever road playoff game going to Buffalo. And then on the NFC side, the Rams will go to San Francisco and the Bucks will go to Dallas in your divisional round. So, that is going to conclude it for us today. And we'll see you next week. We'll see where I'm right, where I'm wrong, and hopefully we'll all have a little bit more change in our pockets. Thank you for watching, and like I said, share us around. We're going to start getting this on Spotify and a few other places. So everybody be safe out there with the weather front coming.